全員います。
ビデオ、リンクする
何あ
リンク。では、POI は、ビデオで、ボーカライズでお願いします。I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Um, we believe making community is the most important solution for this problem because this enhances the reach to support and it removes the young carers' mental security, and third, it increases the recognition for this problem. So for these reasons, we believe this can actually remove those problems, burdens, and, and increase the support for. And firstly, I explain about the character of one young carer. They're under 18 years old, so in this people in this age is likely to more weak in mentally than physically, and also they have to go to school at noon, so and they know little about social services. And secondly, the character of young care as social problem. The firstly, it is likely to treat it as sensitive since they are really a personal problem. For example, people whose father is alcoholic, and that people will hesitate to talk about it because those problem is thought as a shamed thing in this society. And and thirdly, I'll explain about the contents of this community and workshop. Firstly, in this workshop, there is professionals on uh, young people's anxieties. So, and those people can provide good knowledge of services for those young carers at first. And secondly, making community itself, it means that it is gathering people. So um, um, if people can know about this community, it equals that they know about people who has the same anxiety or problem as themselves. And and secondly, and also in this workshop, people can gather in remotely and also person to person. So even if the young carer living in remote area, they can join in those community and talk about themselves. And next, I will talk about how people help each other in this community. A is community itself is a resource, and two, recognition will enhance in our paradigm. And the first point, communities resources. Firstly, in these communities, the good uniqueness of this community is that people who used to be a young carer can remain in this community, so they can help the young carer in, like for example, firstly, they can help them to help them the procedure uh, for political services, and so for by doing this, they can provide more likely to young parents to reach those social supports. And secondly, they can talk about their experiences and remove mental anxieties. What we concern the most is about the mental security for young carers. Uh, uh, for the opposite paradigm, even there's a lot of social services for young carers. What they can do is only to remove burdens for just for young carers. So and that this means they can what they can do is to make young carers the situation like not for close to not young carers support. However, they cannot actually remove the burden, mental burden. What is the most important for young carers? Because even if there's a lot of support, those young carers situation is not the same as the not young carers children. So they will think that they were concerned about their time of study or the situation in their family. However, in our paradigm, the recognition for this problem will enhance. What this is likely? Firstly, the 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 government split resources to making community, so they can make a lots of advertisement, and they can like promote in schools, and also because in this community there's a lots of young carers who knows that how they can reach informations in their lives. So there it is more likely that the government can make more effective advertisement. And what the impact and what is good thing for this recognition? Firstly, the reach for those help will increase, obviously. And secondly, the advertisement will make this the young carers problem more social thing. So people will recognize it as a normal thing, and people will know that there's a lot of people who are suffering from these people. So and this is not so much personal and so much that has to be like hesitate and feel ashamed of. Um, so um, so in conclude, even if in our paradigm we will also do political support for other young carers, but what we think is most important that reachability, so accessibility for support for the children, and we think we split more resources than opposite paradigm to making community. Is more likely that uh, people will know about those help because of the advertisement, and also the community itself, the resources. For example, the people who was a young carer and also if we make community, uh, uh, we can provide more physical help. For example, people who is living in cross area, they can like do shopping for other young carers, for example. And so by doing this, we no longer have to gather people to. So for these reasons, we proud to propose. Thank you.
All right, thank you for a very fine speech. Now let's call upon the leader of opposition. The speech time is 7 minutes. Okay. こっち。あ、そこ行くと眩しいからこっちで立てる。で、マイクそこのやつです。
Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Three things today in my speech. Firstly, framing of this debate. Secondly, talking about why material benefit is more important than the emotional benefit. And thirdly, talk about why we can have better allocation of resources by allowing all people to access to this. One by one. Firstly, framing. Two pieces here. Number one is that even in outside of the house, we think we can also have some places of sharing experiences. For example, if you want to talk to your experiences, then you can talk these kind of things to your best friends. You can talk to your parents, or you can talk to your teachers, or you can access the counselors in the schools, which is providing for free, and you can even have the information on the internet. Insofar, those problems of young carers are likely to be recognized in the society. The implication here is that we can co-opt the government argument, saying that they can create safe space for them, and therefore, if they really want to share information in outside of the house or want to get advice from the society, then those young carers can still do that in outside of the house. And the second framing here is that about the accessibility of those services, we think it should be symmetric, because if the government can say like the government can have the promotion or the advertisement, then we can do the same thing, like we can promote those services or these kind of things, and therefore we think in our side of the house, those young carers still have the accessibility. Having said that, argument number one, why material benefit is more important. We think in our side of the house, it is much more good because those young carers obviously can decrease the burden on themselves. Because in our side of the house, we can have actual changes. When they go to hospitals, then they can pay less. When they want to get the social services like nothing or these kind of things, they don't have to spend more money. What does this mean is that the consequence here is that they have to since those young carers can have to spend less money on those issues, we think those people do not have to work harder and harder compared to their side of the house. And since they can use less money for those kind of things, those people can allocate that money to other things, like they can have more food, they can have the more education, all those things. And that is why in our side of the house, we can actually decrease the burden on themselves and have actual changes for young carers. Then what does this look like in their side of the house? We think firstly is that we don't know that those people actually can get the effect, emotional effect or not. By sharing emotion, to what extent it's gonna solve the issues of the young carers. Is it really work or these kind of things? We think it's those kind of emotional things are unlikely to be individualized because young carers have spectrum. Like some people have the intensive traumatization. Some people have the strong mental trauma, but others are not. In that situation, we think it is almost impossible to give diverse set of the services for all those people in a counseling or workshop. Therefore, we think in their side of the house, the emotional kind of things are unlikely to work. But the second reason here is that even if those emotional things can have the effect, we think in their side, nothing can actually change physically. Because in their side of the house, those young carers still have to pay money continuously for medical care, still have to pay money for the social services, all those things, because comparatively government do not funding to those issues. And that is why the consequence here is that even if they have the emotional effect, we think in the young carers in the government paradigm have to work to pay for those medical care, have to cut the cost for example, buying food in order to spend more money on the social services, all those things. And that is why we think we have to actually have the material benefit for those people in order to decrease the burden on them. Then moving on to the argument number two, why we can have better allocation of resources by allowing all people to access. In their side of the house, we think not all young carers are able to access to these things that is provided by the government. Two reasons here. Number one is that we think some people have less incentive to going to workshop because some people are likely to have strong traumatization. It was the consensus from the government benches. Like some people experience the domestic violence from parents. Some people have having the difficulties caring about the young sibling, all those things. And in that situation, since those young carers are likely to have the emotional barrier to talk those issues to people, they in the very first place are not unlikely to have the open mind that sharing their emotions to other people. And in that situation, we think young carers are less likely to have the incentive to actually go to or access to those workshops that is provided by the government. But the second reason here is that we think young carers are less likely to have the capacity to do that because in that because in the status quo, those young carers are unlikely to have the time to go to workshop. It is empirically true that those young carers have to do housework, have to go to work like part-time job, all these things, and also have to study for themselves. This is like those people waking up at 6 and have to make breakfast and send their siblings to school, and they also have to go to school, and after they come back to home, they have to make dinner and make sure if their younger sisters are sleeping or not. In that situation, we think those young carers actually have the actually do not have the time to go to those places like workshop, and we think those people have are unlikely to have the capacity to do that. Therefore, in their side of the house, even if the government is providing such a thing, some people who cannot go to access or who do not want to access are still existing, and those people are likely to be neglected. But in our side of the house, we think it will be much better for those people. Before moving on, do you have any POI? So moving on to our side, in our side of the house, we think we can have much more better resource allocation, because regardless of people traumatizing or not, those people can have the those people can access to the services that is provided by the government. Since government or the state is cutting cost of the social cutting cost of the medical care or these social services, we think regardless of people have the capacity or not, because regardless of people have the incentive or not to, or like the traumatizing or these kind of things, we think those people can have anyway access to the monetary support from the government. Therefore, the impact here is that in our side of the house, more number of young carers are likely to be served, because those young carers are unlikely to be neglected, even if those young carers do not want to access to the emotion. Not as we clearly preempted, even in our side of the house, if you really want to share experiences, if you really want to have the safe places, we can do that, because we can have the social media or the schools or all these places. Proud to oppose.
All right, thank you for a wonderful speech. Now I can call upon the Deputy Prime Minister. The speech time is 7 minutes. Be here.
can you hear me?
Go. Come on, clear.
Um, I will start my speech. 3, 2, 1, start. First of all, I want to emphasize our setup, the characterization of young carer, and then I rebuttal stood against the opposite side, and then I reviewed our arguments. First of all, how the young carer, how does the young carer looks? We say that the young carer is tired of caring about their relatives or parents. They go schools in the afternoon or uh, mornings, and then they are very exhausted in caring their parents, and those young carers don't want to try to share their troubles with other peoples, because this is a bit of shame or personal problem for them. For example, if you have the parents who addicted to alcohol or drug, do you want to share this information or trouble with other peoples? For example, the parent friends, just casual friends, I think that it is difficult to share this opinion, and then it is also difficult for them to search information via internet or SNS because they're very exhausted. So it is important for the community or organizations to call, reach to those people. So I think that there are two difficult phases. First of all, they say that there is a material benefit, so the young carers can access to these material benefits. However, so as I told you, those exhausted young people cannot access to those materials for by themselves. So we should support this 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 phases process, and then it is difficult for young people under the 18 years old to understand the contract or sentence of contract and understand the system or fee. So this in this phase, it is important to support this phase. So there are two difficult phases for the young people to access the material services. So by contrast, in our side, we say that the in sorry, and they say that we if we increase the support or support system, this will reach to the young carers. However, it is not true. For example, this is because those care system didn't target to young carers exclusively. For example, the workers or all the people who are giving care to old man or older persons or other parent their parents, they also want to reach these services. So those services won't be targeted to young carers excessively. So the so if those services will be increased, all of them don't all of them don't won't be distributed to young carers. And then at least we in our paradigm, those increase services and system will be saved in our paradigm at least. Um, and I will build our contract. They said that it is more important that material benefits is more important than mental security. However, we provide you that the we say that mental security and the function of community. The function is half of support system. The mental, first of all, the mental security, the young people tends to bear this problem by themselves inside their mind. So this situation lead to depression, and it is difficult to share their problem. So it is difficult. So it is important to share their trouble or problem. I think, as you know, I think you might have experienced that if you talk about your own personal problem to the other persons, you you are relieved in after speaking out, and that and if the once the community take this can uh, figure out the problem, the community can connect the young carers to appropriate services. The uh, the community the senior member of this committee can also help the young carers to achieve or gain the services because this the contract sentences are difficult for the young people. The senior or member of committee can help this process. So I I want to emphasize again that uh, announce the uniqueness of community. The community is authorized by government, so it is reliable. So and in those events or workshops, the experts can inform what's important for caring the parents, and then those committee can announce by giving their money from the government. So it is sure that the committee can announce, committee and government and school can announce and reach to young carers. That's all.
All right. Thank you for a very fine speech. Now let's follow up on the deputy leader of opposition, the Muslim. It's 7 minutes. You get.
Am I audible? I'm going to start my speech in 1, 2, 3. In this debate, all the argument coming from the government side is very simple because they think that if the young children can go to the community center, they can gain their mental health and can relieve their burden. But however, it doesn't true. And in my today's debate, I will talking about the three things. The first is talk about why their argument, what some rebuttal to their argument, and the second is talking about more characterism, what is going to be happening our side, and the last talk about why our side can bring a more concrete benefit to those young people. The first some rebuttal. The first one is because the firstly, firstly, those all of the argument and all of the solution provided by their side are not unique enough. The first is that as my leader of the opposition has already told you, because all of because the young children, if they want to share their experience and they want to seek the mental help, they can just go to the schools and the counselor centers and to ask help from their teachers and getting some more professional help. And the second one is that to gaining the social recognition in our side, because our side are going to set more policies. So when the policies are published and all the society will know about it, there are some of the concrete problems are already happened, and the social attention will also be achieved. And the second and the next thing is that the social groups such as the NPO groups which can happen, those young people with the troubles can also exist in our side because they anyway there are somebody caring about the young people, anyway somebody care about their situation. And the next thing is all their argument and all their solution are not effective enough. The first is they cannot ensure that the young children can really have the possibility or can really have the chance to achieve help to getting access help from the community center. The reason is very simple because their parents are also ashamed of the experience of them. Their parents also ashamed with them problem. For example, your alcoholic parent will not let the outside know they're alcoholic, and your drug parents will not let the outside know they're drug. So they will stop the kids to go to the community center just because they don't want the outside of the society know the problems happening in their home. And the second thing is that it's not it's not simple things to call the attention from the public. The reason is very simple. The first reason is that because most of the people in the public, they lack the similar experience with those young people who need help. It's very hard for them to attach their own experience with them and to be feeling more empathy for them. And even if the social movement or even if the social help are achieved, but this is not helpful enough. The reason is also simple because the firstly is because many of the volunteers they can get from the society, from the public, they're not professional enough. Many people go to volunteer only in their part time and they haven't received enough training. And also, and also all those help are only raised by some of the social NPOs, and that means they don't have enough capability as our side, which are giving help from the government. They maybe don't have enough resources, don't have enough money to provide enough service for those young children to help them to opt out from their situation. And the next is more categorization on our side. Our side are providing more tangible materials help for these children. The first is for the children who have the family members with sick. When they go to the hospital, they can getting more. All the fees they needed to pay for the medical will be reduced. So this means their family can have more savings, their family can have more monies. And the second is that for the children whose parents have the alcoholic problem or some other disabilities or some other mental health, our side of house can sending them home some the nurse with professional knowledge, which can taking care those parents and those relatives, those family members with more concrete help and can relieve the burden of the young people. And the next is to talk about why in our side, why in our side there's more likely for these young children to getting achieved to this service. The first is that those young people will have a more incentive to do it. The first reason of it is because they doesn't need to suffer from the emotional trauma because in their side of the house, those young children they have to go to the have to go to the community and they have to talk their experience with the community members who maybe the community members are their classmates or something, and those young people will feel nervous because they don't want the other people to know the terrible things happening in their home. But in our side, the process to achieving to help is relatively simple. The only thing you need to do is to submit a form or submit the letter to the government center to asking for the help and to achieve for the help. And it's very private because they don't need to leak their own information to other people who are irrelative to them home or to relative to the process of the help. And the second thing is that in our side help and the second thing is that those young people they have the emotional effect because they love their parents and they love their parents or they love their family members because they are family and they wanted to give them family members more help, more concrete help. And the second thing is and the third thing is that in our side we surely can reduce the burden and the young people know that the money and some of the material help will be more beneficial to solve their to solve their problems. And the next argument is talking about why our side can giving more concrete guarantee for those young curious to change their situation. The first reason because this can reduce their mental burden. Why this mental burden is actually occurred? There are three reasons. The first reason is because of money, because some of the young children, because some of their family members who have the disease, they need to go to the hospital very frequently, and this will cause a huge financial burden to them at home, and that will. And the second thing is that the young children may be worried about the future because they have to take care about their parents or their family members. They don't have enough time to put into study and they worry about their future, whether they can go to the better university or not. And the next thing is that maybe receiving some abusement from their relatives because their relatives who is alcoholic problem, mental health problem, maybe demonstrate, maybe committed DV to the poor young children. And in our side of the house, we can reduce the mental burden. The first is that they don't need to worry about the money because our side will provide them the material help. And the second, that don't worry about the future because they have more flexibility over time because at the time that the professional nurse are taking care of their parents, they can use the time to study or to do anything else. And the second is that they don't need to worry about abusive problems because our side will sending the nurse to their family and also because they submit the form and their family situation will call attention to the government members, and some government member will surprise their home and to ensure that there's no abusive problems happening in their home. And the second thing is that they can have more time to study because they have more time flexibility. And the third thing is they have they can have choices to learn the professional knowledge from the nursing and from the professional private a service provider. Therefore, proud to oppose. Thank you.
Thank you for the speech. Now let's call on the government whip. The speech time is 7 minutes.
Am I audible?
Yep. Indeed.
Thank you. If you have any POIs, please vocalize. And gender pronunciation is, please.
Okay, I'll start my speech in three, two, one, go. Firstly, the most important crisis in today's debate, how mental security of your young carer is important and how exclusively the in our side of the house, the such mental security are guaranteed. They said the in their side of the house, the young carer have best friends or the many options to talk with about their family. But firstly, the not all young carer have best friends, the very reliable, that they can talk all things about families or but it is very unlikely why the young carer are unlikely to talk about families to their friends because they feel ashamed because if they do that they may think that the friends may think that this this girl this girl's father is the alcoholic toxic, so this is strange or something like that. So young people care about much and much. So the scenario about best friends is unlikely. And about the counselor, if the counselor is the or teacher or something like that, if the young carer go to the counseling room, the people around think that she go to the counselor room, she has the secret and she cannot talk about this or something like that. And so the young girl also feared about such reputation and thirdly about internet. The internet information in the first place is very not reliable and there is that needs much encourage to access this and the email to the person in the internet or something like that. The young girl have know the know people who have same situation or something directly that so internet information is very not reliable and this needs much encourage and why young career have much incentive to participate in more about us about the workshop in our side house. They explain that some people have traumatization, so they cannot say so that is unlikely. But this is not true in the first place. What is traumatization? They never explain. The traumatization is that, for example, the people have fear about the certain situation and people don't want to go there because of the traumatization. But in this case, the young carer don't have traumatization about the workshop. Why people don't go to the workshop because of the traumatization about their daily life? And so and in this situation, the young carer are daily engaged in the family problem. So and the, they are far from the community, and so the why likely the young carer go to the workshop. The as we said in our setup, the government more do the promotion to the old schools or more diverse promotion, more diverse message. The government people more think about how message deliver to the young carer and how can we make the young carer obtain to the community or in the workshop the important information about such family clothes problem and or something like that. And also the if they do not go to the community, the government people go to the schools and do the explanation that if you want to go to the community that you can access this email address or something like that. This is very reliable for them because this is government people, not the internet unanimous people. Or, so they can more access to the go to the workshop or community and also they said that there is no time, but this is not true. If they can get the for example email address of government people, if they have free time, they can go to the workshop or something like that. And so and okay, and how mental security of young carer is very important. The in the premise, the material is are certainly enough in also our side of us. The difference of government side and opposition side is that And since now, the how we think about the young carer, the whether thinking about new policy or thinking about new creation of community. So this is the difference. So in our side part, this is there is a certain of social welfare. So they, if they go to the hospital, they can get social welfare. That there is a limitation that they have to pay in the hospital or something like that. So and so why mental security is very very important in today's debate. The in their side pass, as I said, the young carer are likely to one because of the characterization of young carer. They are under 18. They their community is likely to limit it to the schools. That there is no reliable adults who have deep understand about the family problem. But in our side house, the young carer can access to the community and share the experience, share the situation they hold. Why they talk openly, because they have they have also have the suffering situation, so they can talk openly to the such people, and they can get the big mental security that I am not alone. That there's many people who support us who have same problem with me, and so they can get more communication, and also practically the in the communication the in the community that there is there is many adults who are very understandable about the service from the government. So the adults leads to such young carer to the complicated of a service. The young carer alone cannot go unlikely to successful access to such complicated form and write out the whole forms or something like that. So about the mental security and accessibility, we want this bit.
If you have any POI, I can take it from 5 to 6 minutes. Gender pronouns she, her. Gonna start my speech in 3, 2, 1. At the end of the day, young people still need to learn and grow into an adult. They are the only reliable person for them in the entire life. They don't need to self-sacrifice themselves for their like parents or their siblings or anyone. They are them. Regarding to my speech, I'm gonna mainly to do 3 things. Firstly, I can directly respond to what the web speaker said. Secondly, I can rebuttal with what the PM and DPM are trying to maximize. Thirdly, I can provide weighing and rebuttals. I can do that one by one. Firstly, the web speaker mentioned about the clutch point is mental security. But let's think about where does the mental security actually come from? It came from human security. Human has nature need of being trust and trust other people. I don't understand when our actor today is actually lack of the mental security and lack of the human security, how they can actually trust other people. In our product, we bring to you that people gonna naturally choose their best friend because they already select their best friend to be their best friend. However, Joseph House saying it's not everyone gonna have the best friend. Okay, in outside house, we all also mentioned that you can share the experience online. I feel like even if you're sharing the experience online, you actually gonna not have a leaking privacy situation in the very first place. Then even though you like experience gonna be shared by other people, at least you don't know who you are. It's not actually bring any rumors around you. However, if you go to the community in your side of house, it's actually gonna bring a situation that privacy is leaking. In this product, I think the trust issue cannot be solved in the very first place. Secondly, let's talking about the professional people. Your side of house saying that professional people gonna bring support to them. However, whether they're gonna feel comfortable to share the information with professional people is not reliable in your side of house by the explanation. Now I'm gonna add some characterization to the professional people. There is mean two people as in this circle. Firstly, the people who are professionally used to be or not used to be people who have the same experience as you. Secondly, people who have had the same experience as you. I think people who have the same experience are probably not participate this kind of event that much because they're busy, right? So whether they used to be or not, they probably still need to take care of their parents because it doesn't mean when you grow up you don't have to take care of your parents anymore. Even though you're professional people, probably you also have to take your parents. Therefore, every time the people come here is not actually consistent. Therefore, you probably are not feel the comfortable environment that much because every time you're gonna meet up with different people. Secondly, move to the people who are used to be and used to not be that. I think people who are professionally and used to be that kind of people, they probably already traumatized from this situation. It's gonna lead to our second argument later. I'm gonna explain later. And people who doesn't have the same experience probably also feel uncomfortable. Even though you feel comfortable to share with that, they probably are not professional enough to share the information. Because you guys didn't provide any mechanism about why professional people there as being selected in the very first place. Then moving on to the intention and the argument that you mainly provide, why people are having like traumatized from there. You mentioned that we don't have any explanation about traumatizing and provide a mechanism about what is traumatizing. But in our set of house, we can provide you multiple cases from like psychological perspective. Firstly, panic disorder. Secondly, PTSD. They all like this kind of case that when people getting traumatized after years or something, they still can get triggered. And after they get triggered, they're gonna give the response to this disorder and feeling uncomfortable immediately. Therefore, your argument about people is not actually getting traumatizing from such environment is not stand. They can empathize with people around them and feeling the same situation. Then moving on to the next argument that you mentioned outside of house that people are probably don't have time or like do not want to go because they don't have any information. The only direct response from you is the diverse message from the school. Gonna actually this diverse message from the school is gonna enhance our argument of they are being afraid of being ashamed. That you're probably the school people around you gonna know about that hey, this person is going to there and they all know what this community is representative. Therefore, people in your school gonna like make you like make a joke or something around this argument, and they therefore it's actually gonna enhance the shame. Therefore, we do not take direct response from you. Secondly, that you respond to us why they have time to go there. You say like even though they're busy after school, they still have time to go. But just like what I mentioned in the beginning of my speech, they don't have to sacrifice their own entire life and all the free time to like care about their parents something. They have to be them. They have to be the professional people who used to be experience such experience. Therefore, they can help more people. Therefore, I believe in our set of house, the prioritization here is we are trying to help them to become a better themselves rather than to help them to like only focus on the same situation because one day they have to become the adult anymore. And regarding the case you answered that exercise to like getting support in the hospital, the response here is they have to like pay in the hospital anyways. Therefore, your argument is actually not exist. Then moving on to the case mainly from PM, the PM said they can have like rich people to support it, but since there is no any mechanism about why rich people is going to the kind of circle, I would not take this point. Secondly, they gave some characterization about what people is like young and weak in social and know nothing about it. However, it is because they probably is weak in social. Therefore, socialization in such circle can bring them more pressurized in the very first place. Thirdly, moving to guardian people like who know the same experience like you, just like what my previous speaker said, they already have alternative way to find reliable information online or not. Even though it's not reliable information online, they still can like share their experience online anyway. Therefore, the guideline like people online is not stand anyway. Therefore, in this paradigm, the PM street, all the argument from PM street is not stand in the very first place. But just moving on to look at the mechanism from the DPM side house. DPM mainly said that they're gonna be tired. It is exactly right that because of them being tired, so they don't want to go there. They should want to have some of their free time, right? Secondly, they mentioned that young people are not accessed by the solution themselves, just like what I directly respond anyway. They have to face such situation and use the policy in such institution like hospital anyway. Therefore, it's automatically stand. Thirdly, the service is going to increase. Often are do not have to be killer or like job requirement. People who used to do the job gonna lose their job anyway. But what we mentioned here is the young killers, they probably don't have money, so they are not this population in the very first place. Therefore, I think all the argument and mechanism from your side of house is not stand in my speech. Therefore, more than glad to oppose. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your response. Now let's call upon the reply speaker of the opposition side to close their case within 4 minutes.
Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. 3 things from reply speech. First, the raw argument is remaining without rebuttals in the opposition paradigm. Secondly, talk about the only crash point without those young carers will be saved emotionally. And thirdly, weighing one by one. First, the raw argument is remained without rebuttals in opposition paradigm. 2 things. Number one is that the fact that young carers can reduce their burden. Even from the LO, we clearly explained that the inner side of the house, those young carers actually can have the material benefit. The impact here is that they can have more money to spend for other things. They don't have to work hard comparatively. And from DLO, we already told you that those young carers do not have to care about the future that much comparatively. And what government side try to say is that they cannot access to those services. But we clearly explain that even in the opposition paradigm, we can state can still promote these kind of things or advertise these kind of things. And that is why in our side of the house they can actually reduce their burden. But the second issue here is that in our side of the house we can have better resource allocation. Yes, some can access to the government paradigm, but we are still saying that there are people who cannot access to those benefit coming from the government side, because some young carers do not have the incentive to go there because they are hesitate to go there, but B is that since they do not have capacity because they are too busy to go there, we think those people who cannot access are likely to be neglected. We think those arguments are still remaining in our side of the house, and this can be the winning issue from the opposition side. Then moving on to the second thing, only the crash point about the emotional point. What government side try to argue is very simple, that in their side of the house they can have mental support provided by state. 3 things to say. Number one is that we do not know to what extent people will be saved. We do not know how to what degree that those young carers have the impact. What will happen if young carers will be saved, or to what extent those young carers will be saved emotionally. Since the government side failed to prove the mechanism of how they are going to be saved and the impact of these kind of things, we think this argument is the kind of weak things. The second thing is that we think in us, those who can't access or those who do not access to the community are unlikely to be saved. Therefore, it is obviously true that in their side of the house, not all people are going to be saved. But third thing here is that it is not mutually exclusive, because we clearly explained that even in our side of the house, you can still those young carers still have the places that they can share their experiences or all these kind of things, and that is why in our side of the house and that is why we think that this point of the emotional point is not is not mutually exclusive. Rather, in our side of the house, as the DLO clearly explained, that in our side of the house, since we can decrease the burden for those young people are less likely to care about the future. That is why we think our side is much better. Then moving on, even if we admit the government cases, we have the weighing of this argument. 4 metrics the opposition side take this debate. Number one is that the exclusivity. Government side are trying to say about the safe spaces that is provided by the state or this kind of things, but we clearly explain that this is not exclusive, because even in our side of the house, those kind of things things can be provided from the other kind of things like schools or teachers, friends, all these people. But in the opposition paradigm, what we clearly explained is that monetary support is only done by the state, and that is why we think we take this debate from the viewpoint of exclusivity. But secondly, is the number of people in the government paradigm who don't access or who cannot access to the community cannot be saved. But in outside of the house, at the moment that people go to the hospital, they are likely to be saved. Therefore, we have much more, we can maximize the utility. But third metric here is that the vulnerability. Those who do not want to talk about themselves can be saved in outside of the house materialistically. Therefore, we think we take the vulnerability. But fourth thing is the certainty. Like the government say that they can have the emotional benefit, but we do not know how much degree this can happen. But in that side of the house, at the moment you have the money, you are likely to be able to be saved. Therefore, given the fact that government do not weigh this debate, we take this debate. Thank you.
All right, thank you for a very fun speech. Now I'd like to call upon the reply speaker of the government side to wrap up the debate. Finn, 4 minutes. You go.
Um, I will start my speech. Three, two, one. So I think that the the in this discussion, the cross point is whether the young carer can access to the service or not, because even even though there is a special or excellent services, it is no use for the young carers to access these services. And first of all, the issue of young carer who have trauma is not the crush point. They don't explain mechanism that why those young people carer who have trauma cannot go social events or workshops, and then they cannot explain that they can access the services by themselves, especially the trauma, those young carers who have trauma. So this issue is not mutually exclusive. If those young carers who have the trauma is apathetic, they cannot access the services. Larger, because the organization and community actively try to connect to those young carers, there are more possibility to save them. By contrast, this possibility in their paradigm is zero in their side, in their paradigm. And we say that the practical merit is mental security and hub function of community. I told you that it is no use for young carers to access to the services. So this service, so if so, these services lost meaning and effectiveness. And I explain accessibility. For themselves, it is very costly to access to the mental material support system. At least in our paradigm, we can give some support service system. At least in our paradigm, we can give some support service system. They couldn't explain what is lacking in this situation and in this situation. So that delta is very obscure. And those carer and I explain again that those young carers cannot take such a difficult action to try to share the experience with just casual friends or teachers by themselves independently. However, the young carer has less connection, less knowledge, and they are very exhausted, and they try to solve this problem by themselves. So it is difficult to share their emotion or try to try to search. By contrast, the community of by contrast, the community has announcement effect. But the community advertisement by will be done by community or schools. And then senior member or staff of this community can talk to young people who are in trouble, especially caring seniors. By contrast, in their side, those young carers who are in trouble try to search and try to search services by themselves. First of all, they search information via internet or the specialists by themselves, and then they must connect those services. For example, they must go to the consultant or the facilities, and then they must apply those services for them. They must see and understand detailed contract papers. This is very difficult. By contrast, in our side, the hard function of this, thanks to the hard function of this committee, many other peoples can support this process because those members will have sympathy for the young carers. So in our paradigm, we can save much. We can help the young carers to connect these services. That's all.
All right. Thank you all for your fine speeches. はい。では、okay, so we're gonna leave to your different room and do our deliberation. So let's start.